and you have so many rank and file military personnel saying, whoa, we're not a military state. This is not who we are. I promise you, I'm absolutely convinced they will escort him from the White House with great dispatch.
That was a clip from last night's Daily Show. That was Joe Biden interviewing with Trevor Noah about the possibility of Trump not leaving office peacefully in the case of a loss in November. We're back here with you today, the Political Tribune team. We've got Sheila, Andrea, Stephen, and Conover. I'm Andrew. Tell me, Sheila, why are we talking about the possibility of Trump not leaving?
Well, I mean, let's take a look at Trump. He's a narcissist. He definitely loves power. He's all about himself. He is not really known for, promoting peace. So, I mean, this is who is in office. And, we've heard him several times joke about a third term. And even his supporters, like former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, he tweeted saying that he thought that Trump should have a third term because of, the do-nothing Democrats and the media is unfair to him and the Russia hoax. So he thought that, Trump deserved a third term. A televangelist, Jerry Falwell Jr., who's a buddy of Trump's, tweeted that he thought that, we should tack on 2 years to Trump's first term because of the Russian investigation, how unfair it was for him. And then Trump himself retweeted that. And if you even go back to one of Trump's rallies in Pennsylvania, he joked, in front of his supporters, and he was like, maybe I'll leave office in 5 years, 10 years, 13 years. And then he went on to say that he was just joking around and he was trying to say that to drive the media crazy. But then he followed that up with saying, hey, you know what, maybe that's not a bad idea. So he's still doing that. And if you remember his former attorney, Michael Cohen, when he testified in front of Congress before he went to prison, he said that everything he knew of Trump, and this guy was pretty close to him, he said that this would not be, a peaceful transition to power, of power at all. So, this is kind of where we're at, and it's a legitimate concern. And, looking back, nearly 250 years, Andrew, have we ever seen anything like this?
Really, it's a matter of kind of who was in office. We've only had one president who was elected to more than 2 terms, FDR. FDR, of course, famously won 4 terms because there was no 22nd Amendment at the time. He didn't make it through his 4th term. Truman served out the remainder of his 4th term. He died about 100 days into his 4th term. But the Republicans did not like that somebody as populist and popular as FDR, who of course famously made created the New Deal, the Works Progress Administration, really set the country aright again after World War II. They didn't like somebody like that being able to hang on to power, so they did introduce legislation to create the 22nd Amendment. That wasn't even ratified until 1951. For reference, the act that Trump keeps referencing to send the military after protesters and stuff like that, the Insurrection Act, is actually older than the amendment that limits the number of terms you can serve. But FDR was historically popular. He had the kind of supporters that Trump has now, but for entirely different reasons. Conover, what do you think Trump's supporters might do if and when Trump refuses to leave office?
Well, it's remarkable that we even have to have this discussion, but Trump is a different kind of president, and his supporters are angry people. They were angry before he was elected. They've remained angry for 4 years now. And while Trump was on the campaign trail, his rallies were violent, a lot of violent rhetoric, even the lock her up chants, talking about jailing an opponent for committing 0 crimes. So all of that, I think he's setting the stage up in his calls for claiming that there's massive voter fraud when there's zero evidence of that. He even had his own commission set up in his administration to prove there was massive voter fraud, and they came up empty. But it's just so that he can claim later on that the election is rigged, and his supporters won't take it well. I really think that this election will be worse than the 2016 election, if you can imagine that.
That's entirely possible. Unfortunately, I can imagine it. But what if we get to that point? What's the process, Stephen, for removing Trump from the White House if it comes down to that?
Well, if it comes down to that, he'd have a really big obstacle with the military because they are trained from earliest stages that they have an oath to the Constitution they have to honor, and they know that if they disobey that, they could be charged for sedition, they could be charged for mutiny, and the legal consequences are very much at the front of their minds when they take that oath or make that decision to skip out on it. The 20th Amendment makes it pretty clear that Biden would become president on the 20th of January if Trump is voted out. So his term comes to a close, and then they have to salute the next president. The Secret Service would abandon him. The nuclear football officer would abandon him. If they decided to block him in any way from going to Biden's side, there's the backup officer that would come into play and go to the inauguration. There's also other tools that Biden has up his sleeve. He has an acting AG at that point who would be able to file charges and even charge Trump for criminal trespassing. Foreign leaders would cut relations with the White House and recognize Biden as the legitimate leader of the United States. So it would be sort of a mess, but there's a lot of order with some checks that would pretty much prevent what we fear the most.
Right. So it sounds like there's some safeguards in place. Stephen, we're having a couple of issues with your video, but we got audio from you perfectly there. Let me jump to Andrea. It sounds like those kind of safeguards that Stephen was outlining are exactly what Joe Biden was talking about with Trevor Noah last night.
Yeah, so guys, as terrifying as this all sounds, Biden made it very clear that he understands what kind of power he has if and when he takes office. And guys, he's not afraid to use it. Speaking with Noah last night on the Daily Show, Biden was pretty upfront about the situation. He said Trump is, quote, going to try to steal this election. I mean, this is something that Biden is expecting. He did point out that his biggest concern is voting issues like what we're seeing in Georgia right now, where so many polling places were closed down that several different precincts are being forced to vote at the same polling place. So you've literally got people, camping out on the street. And he did go on to reference, kind of as proof for his expectations of Trump's behavior. Trump's constant rhetoric on Twitter about mail-in voter fraud. And I think we've mentioned Trump is really trying to kind of set the stage to make his impending loss look like a bunch of crap, so that he has the ability to, like Conover said, rile up his supporters. But I got to tell you guys, after Biden's interview last night, I don't think he's worried about it. Trevor Noah did ask him in the interview if he's considered what he's going to do, if Trump not only refuses to leave the position of power, but actually physically refuses to leave the White House. And Biden was quick with his answer. He told Noah that he had considered it. And he touched on, a lot of the retired military officials that we've seen here recently that have begun to break away from Trump. especially in the wake of the ordeal that we saw at Lafayette Park, where peaceful protesters were pepper sprayed, shot with rubber bullets, all of these war crimes against peaceful protesters in the streets, so that Donald Trump could walk across the street and hold a Bible for a few minutes. And Biden even noted, and I quote, so many rank and file military personnel are saying, whoa, we're not a military state. This is not who we are. So Biden is pretty confident that, the things that Stephen had mentioned, Biden is pretty confident that he's not going to have any trouble using those avenues if it comes down to it, because we're seeing so many of these, personnel members breaking away and kind of taking off the rose-colored glasses, and they really see, the tyrannical dictator that Donald Trump has always wanted to be. And, to give everybody just a little bit more of a confidence boost, Biden ended his interview by saying, I promise you, I'm absolutely convinced they will escort him from the White House with great dispatch. So guys, I really think, like I said, as terrifying as this all is, because we know Trump is terrifying, Joe Biden's not messing around, guys.
As encouraging as that is, and as much as I know I'm supposed to be rooting for a peaceful transition, I would definitely be lying if I said I wouldn't enjoy watching Trump marched out of the White House in handcuffs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of handcuffs, we do have to take into consideration motives that, what's driving Trump in this third term, other than, of course, being, the almighty powerful, guy, is that we have to remember, as soon as he is out of the office, all of a sudden he can end up in jail. Like, there are a lot of cases racking up against him, starting with the state of New York. So
Exactly.
We'd love to see him in handcuffs. I mean,
right.
That's all the motivation we need to vote and get him out.
Yes.
If he's out, I literally can see him getting thrown into jail.
Well, let's hope we can get a couple of family members in there with him. I think that's all.
I think we deserve to see a perp walk.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Lock him up.
Speaking of that,
All right, guys. Well, that's about as much time as we have for this segment. We'll see everyone next time. Thanks a lot for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed the show, go ahead and join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Political Tribune Media, all one word, or you can follow us on our website, politicaltribune.org. Click allow when the notification button comes up. Thanks for watching.